Welcome to Asher and Turning Time. We are up to Perek Zayin, pasuk Chav Gimel. We finished talking about the Yochanu Boyaz, these two copper pillars which are in front of the Beis Hamikdash, and all the intricate designs that went up on the top. And we spoke about the flower on the top, the highlighter, the chains. And now we continue on discussing the kelim that Shlomo HaMelech had made in the Beis Hamikdash. Vayasas hayam mutzak eser ba'amo misfasoi al svasoi ogol saviv v'chamesh ba'amo keimasoi v'kav shloishim ba'amo yosef oisa saviv. So Shlomo HaMelech went and he made what we call the Yam Shel Shlomo, this huge bath. It's this huge bath. You see it all the times in the pictures. Here you see this bath, which has this is the Yam Shel Shlomo, which was a huge pool that it was made to be carried on the back of these oxen. Water flowed up from a spring from beneath it, and it was used as a mikveh. Huge, gigantic. So you're talking about, it's 10 amas from one end to the other end, which is about, let's say, 20 feet. Right? And it's 5 cubits high, which is about, let's say, 10 feet high. Right? And it's a big pool.
It's about this high.
So again, this was used for a mikveh, and it was used for all your purification needs. Ufkoyim mitachas lesvosoi soviv soviv moisei eser ba'amon makifin es hayom soviv shnei turim hapakoyim yitzukim bitu kosoi. Again, Baruch Hashem, this is one of we're still not out of the complicated zone, but there were these knobs that were around it, and in Divrei Hayomim, there's those that say that these knobs meant that these are the actually oxen that held it, or there was like these little decorative balls that went around it on the design. I don't know if you could see. Here I don't know, if you look closely, you could see they have these little, like 2 rows of knobs going around it, like for decoration purposes. So under the lip there were these knobs. They were going around, and there was 2 rows of these knobs. Made al shnei asar bakar. Oh, very good question. So that was also confusing, because first we're talking about how he built the Beis Hamikdash, then we switch gears and we start talking about his house in Beis Halvanon, and then we go back to the kelim of the Beis Hamikdash, what Hiram built. Made al shnei asar bakar, shloisha poinim tzvoinu, shloisha poinim yoma, shloisha poinim negbo, shloisha poinim mizrach, vayom aleim el moile v'chol achereim boisa. So basically it was standing on 12 oxen, and every single, you see, like in this picture, you see there's 3 oxen here, then there's 3 on this side, 3 on this side, and 3 on the other side, and it's on the back of the oxen. So you have the heads facing in all directions of these oxen, and obviously 12 oxen, you could make whichever pshatim you want. Why 12? Either because there's 12 months in the year, and there was 3 on each side for each season, or you could go into 12 shvatim, but there was 12 oxen. So the thickness was a tefach, and it was made like the rim of a cup, and there was these shushan, perach shushan, there was, he translates it flowers of lilies, but there was designs of flowers, 2,000 baths. That means it was a tremendous large quantity. I saw they were making a cheshbon of like 16,000 gallons or something. Then besides for this Yam Shel Shlomo, he also made these little, let's call them wagons that had basins in it for water. See, these are these wagons with wheels. Yeah. They have wagons with wheels, and on top of these wagons with these copper wheels was also these kiyodim. also made from copper. So this is the way the base was made. They had frames. Mizgeros is frames. Mizgeros ben hashlavim, and there was frames between the rungs. Now, exactly how it looked, everybody who tried to make pictures made it a different way. So I couldn't find any unified. These pictures made it. Here's the base is fat and thin, and here's where you have the copper. The base should have been square. I don't know why over here they made the base round, because it says pretty clear that the bases were square, and it also seems that the bases were larger than the actual top. So I'm not sure. But anyway, the point is that there was these wagons that had huge kiyorim on it. There were these figures of lions, of bakar, of oxen, ukruvim, and of cherubs. And on the top of this shlavim, of these rungs, of this frame, umitachas la'aroyos ulabakar liyos masi moirod. So what it means la'abakar liyos masi moirod is also it's types of figures, and the machloikus what these figures looked like. Was it figures of a man and a woman? Was it figures of or Levois comes from a lashon of Levi. Love Laisha means that they were like embracing, but regardless, there was these different figures on it, and in Chassidus it always talks about that. And the Makava, there's Arya Sheba Makava, and there's an ox, and it always talks about that the reason why we have all these animal figures, we always can say, on the Kisa cover there's the face of ox and the face of a lion. What does this all mean? It's just like every person within himself, and talks about it in Adam Ki Yaakov Mikem, Min HaBokar, Min HaBeimo, Takrim Es Karbanchem. It always talks about that every person has within himself has a lion and has a little shefela. Everybody has within himself an ox. And sometimes we have a little skunk inside of us too. We have a little, when it says, you should be Kal Kanesher or Gibor Kari, within every person there's a part of him, or in the Bria there's an Ari, and that represents like strength or nobility. There's a power of swiftness, and that's represented by the Ayol or Nesher. There's like soar like an eagle. These are tchunas hanefesh that exist in the Bria. So whenever you go into the Mishkan and into the Beis Hamikdash, and you have all these figures, these are representing what people were makriv of themselves. When we want to sacrifice from ourselves, what do you mean you sacrifice from yourself? Sometimes you have to sacrifice your timidness. You have to sacrifice your sheepishness. Or sometimes you have to forget, you have to be sheepish. Sometimes you have to sacrifice by tuning into your lioness. Beis Hamikdash was full of these figures and represented different parts of our human experience, our tchunas hanefesh, and it alluded to what people sacrifice and how we can become closer to Hashem. These are the ways of how we connect. So each base had 4 copper wheels and copper bars, and the 4 corners had shoulders, and the shoulders were beneath the basin across from these couples. These couples are these figures that were on the base. Ufihu mi base lakuseres v'moilo ba'amo ufiu ogol mais echein amo v'chatzi amo v'gam al pio miklois v'mizgereisei mirubois lo yagulos. So the rim of this base was inside the crown and extended above it amo, and it was round and it was made in the same way, just 1.5 amos, and there was carvings on this rim as well. but the frames of the base were square and not round, and that's why I didn't understand why in this picture they made it round the base, or maybe beneath that round they made another base. Anyway, it's totally not clear, but what is clear is that there was 10 of these basins that was used for Tahara. So basically, before you came into the Beis HaMikdash, there was Hachonas. This whole concept of having a Yam Shel Shloimo outside of the Beis HaMikdash, and you had all these kiyorim, or all these receptacles with water in order to purify yourself. It's I'm just trying to bring it into today's world, what it means for us today. Is that we spoke about when before you went into the Beis HaMikdash, there was this Yachanu Boyaz, and it was built in a way where you came into a olam, you came into an antechamber, and then there was this huge olam, and then from there you went inside, there was the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Outside there was this chotzer. It was all built up gradually. That means when, let's say, the Kohen Gadol will go Yom Kippur into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, there was a lot of steps that he had to go through until he went into that divine experience. And when any person came to the Beis HaMikdash, the Kohanim that were working, there were steps. So before you go into a place, you have to go through the steps of purification, of being aware, and being mindful of just readying yourself to go into a new space, into a new zone. If you just roll out of bed and roll into the Beis HaMikdash, it doesn't click. It doesn't work. These are all preparations to get yourself within your mindset to be prepared. So va'arba so'ifanim l'metach l'mizgeres yidoi so'ifanim ba'mechoynu v'koymus ha'oifen ha'echad ama v'chetzi ama v'mase ha'oifanim k'mase ha'oifenim ha'kovo yidoisim v'gehem v'chushukeim v'chushuleim v'kol mutzak. Now, why am I telling you about going into the mindset? Because whenever I read the word oifanim, like we're talking about like oifane HaKodesh, and we're talking about chariots, and we're talking about wheels, and you're seeing that there's a bunch of wheels over here. Now I'm just going to tell you, if there was 10 kiyodim and there was 4 wheels on each one, so there was 40 wheels, right? 40 wheels, and then there's mem saw in the mikvah. Now in there's a very famous story in the Rizhiner, in Kadishan, he brings it in Pesach, and the Torah on Pesach, that once the Rebbe Zisha was sent by the Maggid to bring back somebody to tshuva, and this guy was a peasant, very vulgar, crude peasant, and the Rebbe Zisha went into, and this guy was running his inn, and the Rebbe Zisha came over to him, and there was a big commotion, and he told him, Rebbe, time to go daven mincha. And the guy ignored him. And then the Rebbe Zisha went again to him and he said, it's time to go daven mincha. And he ignored him. And then the Rebbe Zisha came a third time and he grabbed him by the arm and he said, and this guy got so upset. He took the Rebbe Zisha and he threw him into a barn. It was freezing cold in the middle of the winter and he locked it from the outside. And the Rebbe Zisha was, his knees were dol nakshon. He was chattering from the cold and he was almost going into becoming frostbitten from the cold. And the story goes that the only thing that was there was a wheel from a wagon. And it says, the story goes that he covered himself with the wheel from the wagon. What exactly that means? He covered himself with a wheel from a wagon. Like, how do you cover yourself from a wheel from a wagon? And he went into a tremendous dveikus. And he was himshachal of yira. He was mamshich himself a tremendous yira. And that's how he stayed warm. And through being mamshich on him, this tremendous yira, this innkeeper came after a long while, and he opened it up. I assume he expected that it was to be frozen, and he saw that he was still alive, and he was mamshich on this guy yira, and he brought him back to tshuva. And the Rizhiner brings there v'fanei v'oifen echad tiyeh ba'aretz. That there's an oifen, and he says oifanim means there's a malachim called oifanim. And he was mamshich himself the year of the Zefanim. But the way how I think what the pshat is that oifen means a wheel, means something that goes circular, goes around. So when you're mamshich oifane HaKodesh, it means that he went into a meditation where he went around in a circle. He was an oifen is when you're meditating and you're going around in a loop. You're going into a circle and you're going again and again. So the Rebbe Zisha was mamshich on him oifanim means he went into a oifen, he went into a mental state of meditation where through that he was mamshech on himself a tremendous yira, and it's it's something that lahavdol of people could do physically today, where people can through their visualizations or through meditation techniques could actually physically warm themselves. But the point is that he was mamshech yira. So whenever you come into the hachonas to the Beis Hamikdash, and we're talking about that there's tahara from Yam Shel Shloimer, there was also 10 of these basins of water, and they all have oifanim, and it ends up that there's 40 oifanim. 40 oifanim, or 40 cycles, that if you go into it, you went into an achana. It was like the oifen of the markava of the chariot. Obviously everything that's here has esoteric secrets and it's many layers and levels of comprehension, but in Remez and in Drush and in Soid, there's a lot of secrets here about Oifanim. So the top of the base was a half amma, and it was a circle all around, and it's giving you all of the dimensions of these wagons, these purification wagons. Vayifatach al haluchos yedoiseo ve'al mizgareiseo kruvim aroyos v'simoros kamar ish v'liyoisoviv, and on the plates it had all of these cherubs, lions. It had date palms and these couples all engraved on it, which obviously also had different visualizations that a person needed in order to connect. Because those also as Esar HaMechonos Mutzok Echod Mida Achas Ketzav Echod L'Kolanu. We made 10 such bases, all the same way, all the same measurement, all the same size. Vayas Asara Kiros Nechoshes Arboim Bas Yochel Akira Echod Arba Ba'ama Akira Echod Kira Echod Al-Mechono Achas L'Esar HaMechonos. Just reading the words like I'm saying, Tikkun Zohar.
Where are we?
Just the pasuk Lamed Ches. Just like I'm saying Tikkun Zohar, and just knowing that the words are very holy. Anyway, he made 10 copper basins, and each basin had 40 bas yochil akir echod. It was 4 cubits across. Sure. It says 40 baths. 40 baths is like 9 amma by amma. Vayiten as hamechonos chomesh al kesef abayis miyomim v'chomesh al kesef abayis mismoile v'esayom nasim mikesef abayis imonus kedmo mimul negev. So these are the directions that it was facing. And once again, there's machloikes. If it was on the two sides, were these two things on the two sides? Was it on one side on two different sides of the wall? Was it in front of the Yam Shel Shlomo? Different opinions how it was positioned. But yes, chirom esakiros v'esayoyim v'esamizrokos v'echal chirom lasis eskolam locha shel osel Melech Shlomo beis Hashem. Okay, so here we're talking about different kelim that Chiram made. He made these bowls. He made these rakes, these mizrakos, he made bowls, and he made all the different kalim that you needed to take out all of the ash from the mizbeach, raking out the ash in order to pour the blood from the karbonos. Amudim shnayim v'gulas hakasores ashel harosh amudim shtoyim v'ashvocho ishtayim lechases shtei gulas hakasores ashel harosh amudim. So there were 2 columns and 2 basins of the crowns that were on top of the columns. We're describing over here how all the pomegranates that were hanging down, all of these different design pomegranates. So again, I cannot explain exactly what it means. Check out the pictures and try to figure out from all the different opinions how it was. But the Beis Hamikdash of Shlomo Melech had a tremendous amount of intricate details, and it was made by Chiram, who made it l'shem Shemayim with tremendous chokhmah, tvuna, v'das. And this Beis Hamikdash of Shlomo Melech created an experience for anybody who came of connecting to the divine and a new way that never was in the Bria. B'kir ha'yarden yitzakam ha'melech b'mave ha'adama ben sukkos ben tzarson. Now he went, and how did he make the clay bowls? He made them how did he make the copper bowls, and how did he make the copper kalim? He made molds from clay. And in those clay, he poured the molten copper, and that's how he formed all of these kalim. There was so many kalim in Nechkar, Mishkal, and Nechoshes. They couldn't even weigh how much Nechoshes was used. So he made also Mizbech Hazav and a Shulchan. 5 from each side. He made 10 menorahs, 10 more menorahs. One from the right, one from the left. It's made Zav Sogid in front of the Kodesh Kodshim. And the flowers and the lamps and these like tongues that was used for the wick was all made from gold. So when you walked in the Ulam of Shlomo HaMelech, you had there, here you could see, this is their version. You could see how you had 12 menorahs and you had these lechem upon them, and the mizbeach in front over here. And once again, there's different opinions of exactly how these were positioned. If it was on both sides or it was on one side, but Pashtus, it was the way they're writing it, that it's on one side had the menorahs and the other side had the lechem upon him, and it was all made from gold. V'hasifois, v'hamezamrois, v'hamezrokois, v'hakapois, v'hamachtois of sogor, v'hapuisois, l'dalsus, abayis, ha'pnimi, l'kodesh hakadoshim, l'dalsus, abayis, l'echel zov. So these are all different kelim that was made of pure gold, and it was in front of the Beis HaMikdash, in front of the Kodesh Hakadoshim. V'tishlach kol ha'melach asher osa HaMelech Shlomo Beis Hashem. V'yovei Shlomo es kodshei David Aviv. So all the work that Shlomo HaMelech made, he brought to the Beis HaMikdash, and then he brought all the things that his father David HaMelech made, and he brought them into Oitris Beis Hashem. So the question is, why didn't he use David HaMelech's kelim? And the answer is because David HaMelech, if you remember, there was a magay from the times of David. And the money that was used to make these kelim, even though David HaMelech very much wanted to build a Beis HaMikdash and he prepared for it, that the money that was used to make the kelim should have been used to feed the people during this Magefa. If you remember, there was that whole story. And that's why he didn't want to use it, those kelim, or because he knew that eventually the Beis HaMikdash is going to be destroyed, and he didn't want that the kelim of David HaMelech should be there, that the Goyim should eventually say that, hey, you see, payback for David. He didn't want to have that people say, oh, David did something to me, and therefore something happened back to him. He was much rather that he would build a Beis HaMikdash. Nobody had anything against Shlomo HaMelech. He never fought with anybody. He never killed anybody. He was a man of peace. So when the Beis HaMikdash is Chaz v'Shalom eventually is going to be destroyed, he was able to say, it's because I sinned, but it had nothing to do with my father, and he didn't want it to end up being a negative impact on his father's legacy. So he did it from a place of Kived Av. And covered of Klal Yisrael, Chaim.